The rain was relentless, mirroring the storm brewing inside me. I sat in my car, parked a block away from the Gilded Lily, a boutique owned by my wife, Isolde, or as I was beginning to suspect, formerly my wife. I'm Quentin, 46, an IT specialist. Not exactly a glamorous life, but it was my asterisk life, and I loved it. I loved Isolde too, or at least I thought I did. The last few months had been different. Isolde had become distant, preoccupied. Late nights at the boutique, business trips to meet with suppliers, hushed phone calls she'd abruptly end when I walked into the room. The usual clicks, I know, but clicks exist for a reason because they're often true. It started subtly. A coolness in her touch, a lack of interest in our conversations. We used to talk for hours, sharing everything from the mundane to the profound. Now it was like pulling teeth to get a sentence out of her. Then came the phone. She'd clutch it like a lifeline, her eyes darting nervously if I so much as glanced in her direction. Passwords I didn't know, notifications silenced. The business trips were the final straw. Always last minute, always to cities I couldn't independently verify she was actually in. My gut churned with a sickening dread, a feeling I hadn't experienced since my father passed away. I tried to talk to her, of course. "Is everything okay, Isolde?" I'd ask, my voice carefully neutral. "You seem stressed." She'd brush it off with a wave of her hand. "Just work, Quentin, you know how it is." But I didn't know how it was. I'd always supported her dream of owning her own business, even when it meant tightening our belts. I'd celebrated her successes and comforted her during setbacks. Now I felt like an outsider, a stranger in my own home. I started noticing things, subtle shifts in her appearance. New lingerie I hadn't bought her, a perfume I didn't recognize. She started going to the gym, something she'd always resisted before, claiming she didn't have the time. Now suddenly she was a fitness fanatic. I felt like I was losing her piece by piece, and I was powerless to stop it. The final crack in the dam came in the form of a misplaced receipt. I was doing laundry, a task she usually delegated to me, when I found it crumpled in the pocket of her favorite coat. The Cozy Cove Inn, a bed and breakfast about an hour outside of Portland, Oregon. A romantic getaway, a place Isolde and I had always talked about visiting but never had the chance. The date on the receipt, last weekend. The same weekend she was supposedly meeting with suppliers in Seattle. That's when the seed of suspicion truly took root. I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that something was terribly wrong. I couldn't confront her without proof. I needed to know definitively what was going on. So I did something I never thought I was capable of. I hired a private investigator. His name was Silas, a gruff, no-nonsense man with eyes that seemed to see right through you. I told him everything, showed him the receipt, explained my suspicions. He listened patiently, his expression unchanging. "I'll look into it, Mr. Quentin. I can't promise anything, but I'll get you the truth." The waiting was agonizing. Every phone call, every text message sent my heart racing. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. I was a prisoner of my own paranoia. Then 3 days later, Silas called. "I have something for you, Mr. Quentin. Can you meet me at my office?" His voice was grim. I knew whatever he had to tell me, it wasn't going to be good. Silas's office was a dimly lit, cluttered space filled with files and old photographs. He gestured for me to sit down, then slid a manila envelope across the desk. "I think you should see this." Inside were photographs. Photographs of Isolde laughing, holding hands with a man I didn't recognize. Photographs of them kissing, embracing, walking arm in arm down a cobblestone street. Photographs of them entering the Cozy Cove Inn, the same inn from the receipt. The man was tall, handsome, with a confident air about him. He looked like he belonged in a magazine, not in my wife's arms. My world tilted on its axis. The air left my lungs. I felt like I was going to be sick. She watched me, his expression sympathetic. "Sorry, Mr. Bronze, I know this isn't easy." I couldn't speak. I just stared at the photographs, my mind reeling. Who was this man? How long had this been going on? And most importantly, why? Why would Isolde do this to me? I managed to croak out a question. Who is he?" Silas consulted a file. "His name is Bertram. He's a local architect. Apparently he's been working with Isolde on the renovation of her boutique." An architect, of course. Someone who could help her with her business. Someone who could offer her something I couldn't. I felt a surge of anger, hot and blinding. I wanted to find this Bertram, and I didn't know what. I wanted to make him pay for what he'd done. But more than that, I wanted to confront Isolde. I wanted to hear her explanation, to understand why she'd betrayed me so completely. I thanked Silas, paid him his fee, and left his office, the photographs burning a hole in my pocket. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing. I couldn't go inside. I couldn't face her, not yet. I needed time to think, to process what I'd learned, so I drove to the Gilded Lily. I needed to see her, to observe her, to try to understand what was going on in her head. And that's where I was, sitting in my car, watching her through the rain-streaked window. She was inside, talking to someone. I couldn't see who it was, but I could see her face. She was smiling, laughing. A genuine, unguarded smile I hadn't seen in months. It was like a knife twisting in my gut. I watched her for what felt like hours, my anger and pain building with each passing minute. Finally, the person she was talking to emerged from the back room. It was him, Bertram. He stood in the doorway talking to Isolde, his hand resting casually on her arm. She looked up at him, her eyes filled with affection. It was too much. I couldn't take it anymore. I got out of the car, the rain soaking me to the bone, and walked towards the boutique. I pushed open the door, the bell jingling merrily, a jarring contrast to the turmoil inside me. Isolde and Bertram both turned to look at me, their faces registering surprise, then guilt. "Quentin," Isolde exclaimed, her voice tight. "What are you doing here?" I didn't say anything. I just stared at them, my eyes burning with anger and betrayal. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the photographs, throwing them down on the counter. They landed with a soft thud, the images of their infidelity staring up at them. Isolde gasped, her face paling. Bertram stepped back, his eyes widening. What is this?" Isolde stammered, her voice trembling. "Quentin, I can explain." "Explain," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "Explain how you could betray me like this. Explain how you could lie to my face. Explain how you could sleep with this. I couldn't even bring myself to say the word." "It's not what you think," Isolde said, her eyes pleading. "It's complicated." "Complicated," I repeated, my voice rising. "Is that what you call it, complicated? You're having an affair, Isolde. There's nothing complicated about that." Bertram cleared his throat. "Look, Quentin, you stay out of this," I snapped, turning to him. "This is between me and my wife, or should I say *X*wife." Isolde flinched as if I'd slapped her. "Quentin, please," she begged, tears welling up in her eyes. "Don't do this." "Do what, Isolde?" I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Expose your little secret. Ruin your little affair. I should have done this months ago." I turned and walked out of the boutique, leaving Isolde and Bertram standing there, their faces etched with guilt and shame. The rain was still falling, washing away the last vestiges of my hope and trust. I drove home, packed a bag, and left. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't leave a note. I just disappeared. I needed to get away, to escape the memories, the pain, the betrayal. I drove for hours, not knowing where I was going, just wanting to put as much distance as possible between me and Isolde. I ended up in a small town in Montana, a place I'd never been before. I checked into a motel, a dingy, rundown place, but it was all I could afford. I spent the next few days in a haze of grief and anger. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I just replayed the events of the past few months in my head, trying to understand what had gone wrong. Why had Isolde done this? Had I not been good enough? Had I failed her in some way? I knew logically that it wasn't my fault, that Isolde's actions were a reflection of her own character, not mine. But it was hard to shake the feeling that I had somehow failed, that I could have done something to prevent this from happening. After a week, I knew I couldn't stay in Montana forever. I needed to get my life back on track, to start over. I called a lawyer, filed for divorce, and started the process of dividing our assets. It was a messy, painful process, but I was determined to get through it. Isolde didn't fight me. She knew she was in the wrong, and she didn't try to contest the divorce. She just signed the papers and disappeared from my life. I never saw her again. As for Bertram, I heard through the grapevine that his wife had found out about the affair and had kicked him out. His reputation was ruined, and he lost several major clients. Karma, I suppose. It didn't make me feel any better. In the end, I was left with nothing but a broken heart and a shattered sense of trust. It took me a long time to heal, to learn to trust again, to believe that I was worthy of love. But eventually, I did. I met someone new, someone who loved me for who I was, someone who would never betray me. Her name is Guinevere, and she's everything Isolde wasn't. Honest, loyal, and kind. We've been together for 5 years now, and I've never been happier. I still think about Isolde sometimes, but it's no longer with anger or pain. Just a sense of sadness, a regret for what could have been. I learned a valuable lesson from that experience, that you can never truly know someone, that even the people you love the most are capable of betrayal. But I also learned that you can survive even the most devastating heartbreak, that you can rebuild your life, and that you can find love again. It's not easy, but it's possible, and that's what I want to tell you, the reader. If you're going through something similar, if you've been betrayed by someone you love, don't give up hope. It will get better. It may take time, but you will heal. You will find happiness again. Just keep believing in yourself and never lose sight of your own worth. You deserve to be loved, and you will find it, I promise.